Welcome back everybody to Extreme Off-Road Silly Bills, and today we're dealing with the 2021 Bentley Flying Spur. Now this has 1058 horsepower, 977 pounds-feet of torque from its 6.3 litre twin turbocharged W12 engine. The car itself now weighs 4,070 pounds, still has its all-wheel drive system, but it now has off-road tyres and off-road suspension to go alongside it, and it can only 0 to 16 2.537 seconds, 0 to 104.799 seconds, and go to a top speed of 245 miles an hour. So the stats overall for this car are fairly solid, especially in terms of off-road capability, braking, launch, acceleration and speed. The only slight concern is the handling. 4.8 is quite on the lower side of things, especially when you consider this is still a heavy car at more than 4,000 pounds. It's still obviously a large car, being quite a massive luxurious saloon. So both of those elements could well prove to be fatal for this car in terms of being as quick as it could be. But it's got plenty of power, plenty of torque, and that all-wheel drive system is native to the car, which are all benefits. But the main concern is whether or not it's going to be quicker than the Continental GT Convertible, which is based on the same kind of platform as this, had the same amount of power and torque as this, but is also lighter than this is. So yeah, whether or not we can be quicker than that all comes down to how controllable this is going to be, because the extra weight could prove beneficial in terms of keeping it from bouncing up and down in terms of the bumps and the jumps, and the extra weight might well also rein in some of that extra power that it's got to make it that bit more manageable. But the extra weight also will slow it down. So yeah, whether or not it's going to be quicker than that convertible is going to be all down to how controllable it's going to be. But extra weight can prove beneficial. It can also be fatal if it's too much the other way. But you know, given it's not a massive amount of extra weight over the convertible, it shouldn't prove to be too much of a hindrance in comparison. So yeah. Now granted, we could have easily swapped in an engine for this car to make it even more powerful, but since we didn't do that with the convertible, or the GT Continental Convertible, I felt like it was a bit unfair for, in comparison to that car, to go for an even more powerful engine. Plus I was interested to see what this could do in comparison to that car while sharing the same engine with the same power and the same torque. So yeah, that's the only real reason for wanting to do that. So let's see what it can do around this course. So far it has been easily manageable, I guess you could say. Not quite noticing the weight and the size of the car so far, but that could prove to be the case further down the course as part of the more complex parts. Dealt with that landing off after that jump really well though. Some cars do bounce around a fair old bit, especially in terms of their rear end. That can bounce up again once it lands. No such case with this one, although it did do it somewhat there. Hopefully that's not going to happen again. One other benefit of having extra weight is dealing with any road furniture. It's far easier to punch through fences or posts or anything like that when you've got that bit of extra bulk on your side. Lighter cars do slow down quite heavily when coming up against such furniture, whereas something like this is really not going to struggle too badly with it. So far this is proving to be far more agile and capable around this course than I expected it to be. And granted, it's not getting up to any ridiculous levels of speed, but it seems to be fairly consistent. And even though consistency isn't, you know, showy or spectacular, it can prove to be quick on this course. This is, but also you got the case of the fact that even though this does feel good to drive here and isn't feeling its weight, that does not necessarily mean it's going to be fast. Plenty of cars on this series have felt quick before, or at least felt nice to drive, and does not prove to be all that quick. So here's hoping that's going to be the not going to be the case for this one. little bit deep into that corner there. And we have beaten the Continental GT by a substantial margin, by more than 1.5 seconds in fact, which is mightily quick for a car of this type. It is a big heavy saloon at the end of the day, and yeah, it's beaten the lighter Continental, which is a massive surprise, to be honest. And yeah, that also means that it's also come right up against the likes of the Mercedes-Benz E55 AMG wagon from the previous episode. We've beaten that by exactly 0.4 of a second. We've also beaten the Plymouth Barracuda Formula S, as well as the Subaru WRX STI ARX supercar, Porsche Motorsport 395, and we're ever so slightly ahead of the Hennessy Venom F5, whereas we're ever so slightly behind the Dodge Coronet Super B, a Lotus Esprit Turbo, a Porsche Mission R, and a Lucid Air Sapphire, which I guess you could say is a kind of a electric comparison to this car, another big large saloon car, but that has all electric power on its side, which is one reason why that was quicker than it might well have expected it to be. But we're also quicker than some other fairly solid competition like the Nissan GT-R Nismo, McLaren 765 LT, and a Audi RS e-tron GT, another large saloon car. So yeah, on the whole, fairly impressive this was. Didn't feel its weight or its size whatsoever through the corners, especially even the more complex parts of the course. And even though it wasn't getting up to ridiculous rates of speed, it was, like I said, consistent. It was consistently getting up to about 130, 140 miles an hour, and yeah, being able to get up to those rates of speed without any issues at all in terms of controllability really was lending itself nicely to this car. And yeah, if it had more power, it could well have gone quicker, but it also could have been even more uncontrollable. So I feel like even though we've not got the most amount of power in this car, it was a reasonable amount to have for a car of this size and weight, and I feel like it was reasonably controllable as a result of that. So yeah, at the end of the day, maximum amount of power on this series does not necessarily mean a quick car, because the Nissan Z Nismo had less power and less torque than this, and that was even faster than we are in this car, but granted, much lighter vehicle and a smaller and more agile one as well. But still, overall an impressive vehicle, and one that I highly recommend getting if you haven't already. Nonetheless, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.